Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Be Inspired Speaker Series. My name is Jose Rubio, the Secretary of Puente Club Sierra, and it's my pleasure to introduce you guys to today's speaker. We've been fortunate to have Juan Novello for our first Be Inspired Speaker Series. Juan is the Vice President of the Sacramento Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He has also served as Senior Vice President at the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. Juan is a great example of how, as a first-generation college student, it is possible for all of us to succeed upon all odds. And it is my honor to pass it on to Juan Novello. Hi, everyone. I get to be the first of this? Come on. And you get to be the first audience. This is amazing. Thank you for welcoming to your college, and I appreciate the invitation, Monique. You're the reason why I stood up today. Now that I don't adore you all, and I'm sure that we're going to have really great conversations, but normally I would just be home working along on my jeans and my $2 t-shirt and call it a day. But when the invitation hit my inbox, I couldn't say no. Thank you, Juan. Yeah, so it's such an honor having Juan. It's also the first time we get to be introduced to him and talk with him. We've been talking over email for the past couple of days. We were just asking Juan, actually I wanted to share this conversation now that we should start our meeting, is that we were asking Juan, what is it like on a day for him at work? And it was really rather different than what I expected he was gonna share with me. And I thought it was a very incredible thing because as students and people who don't have experience in the industry, we assume that somebody working, like somebody in his position as a vice president of the Sacramento Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we would expect him to be stuck in the office. But rather, he's here with us today. And Juan, is there something that you can tell us about yourself, that you can share about your background that you feel comfortable with, and and maybe elaborate more on the conversation we were having previously to get started? Sure. I think one thing leads to another. I think for a lot of us, and I said us, people who do the type of work that I do, we bring a lot of the background, experience, and the live day-to-day issues that we face in our communities. I check a lot of boxes, like a lot of boxes. When I would apply for something, there will always be a room or a box that I will always have to check. I was undocumented until about 4 years ago. I graduated from San Diego State University with a undergrad degree in entrepreneurship. I understand that most of you guys are entrepreneurship students, so I appreciate being in a room with people who think in the same wavelength. I actually hated my degree, by the way. In many different regards, because I was undocumented, and I lived through a time where being deported was a real issue, especially if you were living in a border town like San Diego was. That's where I grew up. The immigration, will actually get on buses. And all that investment and time that I had dedicated at that point could have gone away like this. At times, after studying, like most of you guys, 11, 12, I'll have to walk about 5 miles because the bus would not run. There was no such thing as Uber back in the days. And my mom would always meet me halfway just to make sure that I would get there safe. I would always ask to go to Denny's and have a salad and a moons over my hammy. That was my time with my mommy. So that was a part of who I am. I grew up in Mexico, meaning until I was 12, I was born and raised in Mexico in a ranch. And that's one of the first things that really marked me as an individual. The simplicity of life without the complexities of what is expected of us. I didn't understand the concept of going to go buy groceries because everything was in my backyard, or everything was, in my family's land. Then fact that here we get watermelons that are this big, I'm like, no, I want the real watermelons that look like this, that I just want to cut from one side to another, put on a little bit of salt and go to town. But it really, again,
provided me that. Once I moved to San Diego, again, I was undocumented. I didn't ask to come. I really didn't. I didn't have another option other than, hey, this is your reality now. Now you have to make it work. Not much different than a immigrant experience in many different regards, but I really try to jump in and really not only do it full force, but consciously also ensuring that I understood what my place was at that particular place. And I'll say why. For a lot of times, as individuals, we go through the notions of living, understanding that there is a set of expectations that we put on ourselves that really distract us to instead figure out who we are and who we are becoming. At a really early age, I understood that there was a lot more power in figuring out who I was and who I was becoming so that I could understand what would make me happy. What would ensure me that when I would wake up, I would be the best possible Juan I could be. And I did it full force. I graduated from San Diego High in 2008 with a Fulbright scholarship. I was accepted to San Diego State, UC Davis, and UC San Bernardino. I ended up going to San Diego State because it was close to home, and again, at that point, I was undocumented too, so extra resources were not available to me. I was a Navy 540 student, and at that point, now you have a resource center that I just visited. I actually helped establish the first Navy 540 student center, now the Immigration or Undocumented Resource Center, in a class-based system at San Diego State. But again, it was in alignment with who I was, and it was in alignment on who I was becoming. I mentioned before that I actually did not like my business degree. I had to study like a whole week to get a C in accounting. I get the concept, just don't test me on them. Just do not. I can apply them, I swear. But when it came to, doing the whole testing, I was just not good at it. But I was also able to have an amazing portfolio of extracurricular activities that helped me get more scholarships and really get to meet the folks who later on started to become my mentors and extra resources. One of them paid for my books. The other one, got me to Sacramento. And really starting to figure out what was like human and social capital that I was going to have available. The United States, for what it is, which lasts into my segue in a little bit, it's a line of opportunities. And that's something that I learned fairly quickly. As somebody who grew up in a rancho, so I really wasn't, in a really early age, I really wasn't aware of what Mexico was, or what the complexities of living or having a life in Mexico was. We moved to the United States and, had to understand the American way of living. I'm a history geek in many different regards. Most of the times I either watching really stupid comedy on YouTube or I'm watching documentaries. One triggers my imagination and creativity. The other one really triggers my intellect and that desire of thinking, why is going on and why is it that things are the way they are? So when I was learning, how to be an American, I said, okay, I'll be an American. I'll figure it out. Even though I may not have papers, I had to stay within, the parameters of what that entails, and I had to make sure that I stay in the line, because then I became eligible and I applied for DACA. That's the reason why actually I stayed in the United States after graduating from college. And I ended up moving to Sacramento. I love Sacramento. I thought that moving to Sacramento was going to be not only an escape and a clean slate in many different regards for my continued my growth, but a lot of people told me no, and a lot of people will not hire me. I actually applied for the Capitals program. If you're familiar with the Capitals program, if policy is the type of work that you want to do, great, do it. I got interviews to all three of them. I was a really high profile and high caliber candidate, but I got none of them. I will tell you that I will not lie to you if I tell you that I probably have applied to a lot of jobs in this town, and most of the time they tell me, no, you're too young. Oh no, there's this reason. Oh no, you overqualified. And so I ended up coming to the Chamber of Commerce because one of the aspects, again, imagination and creativity, and the other one, the sense of questioning and figured out who I was becoming, I realized that there was a huge gap in our ecosystem, our economic ecosystem. How the fifth, at that point, the sixth, now the fifth economy in the world can have the highest level of income inequality in the entire world. I don't understand that. I mean, not so far from here, you see multi-million homes gated and amazing, and I didn't understand the concept of old money until I moved to Sacramento, until I was like, oh, this is money. And then you go on the other side, and then you see homeless. You see folks who look like us, who just want to have an opportunity to actually get ahead. And most of the folks my generation, and this is going to probably not be something popular, a lot of the younger generation tend to be really isolated into, or really directing their efforts into a really interesting way of thinking and the fields in which they go. For instance, a lot of folks in my generation went the education and social routes. And there's a lot of them there, a lot. There's not a lot of folks in small businesses. There's not a lot of folks doing community work, especially for this particular community. I think there's probably about 2 or 3 of us who are Latinos or Latinas who do the type of work that I do in the entire region. And so I understood that I needed to, again, not only be okay with who I was and what I was becoming, but how I was going to use my talent, my assets, by the sake of time. A lot of people don't value time as much as they should. But that's the only commodity that I know I have and I can control over. So I always really selective on how I use it. And how I was going to really be a transformational leader and apply everything that I learned in school and everything of who I was becoming to really benefit the common good. I could have gone and gotten a private job or just completely go away and not care about who I was or who my community was. But I couldn't do that because a lot of folks opened the doors for me, and I knew I could open the door for a lot of other folks. When my mom asked me, what's the type of job that you do, or what is it that you do? She was like, I see you meeting with the governor, with senators, and wearing fancy suits and planes and all this. And I'm like, Mom, my job is really basic. I try to ensure that folks have the best possible opportunities to be the best they can possibly be. Our folks in our communities are hustlers. They are gonna thrive. They are gonna find ways to make something work, because if one thing doesn't work, they're gonna go to another one. But that particular transaction can go really south, really quick, because if that opportunity which that is being offered to them is not the best for them, it can really change the trajectory and the livelihood of not only their nucleus and themselves, but the entire family. And in our communities, that's a lot. So after all of that, I also became gay, I got married, I was the highest serving undocumented chamber executive in the entire United States. I wrote books. Thank you. I wrote a lot of articles, and I was just telling them, I put my first kid through college. My husband, actually, when we met, he was 21, I was 23. We've been together for now almost 10 years, and not only he's my rock in many different regards, but he has really pushed me to not only stay grounded, but also making sure that I live a life through a purposeful lens in where everything that I do, I not only try to be as intentional as I can, but I also try to ensure that I'm the voice for folks who don't even know who I am, don't even care who I am, and probably are never gonna meet me. And that, to me, it's something that is not only powerful, but continues to really push me to do more and more and more. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
That was the best answer. Thank you.
Okay. You are currently the Vice President at Sacramento Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Which career choice brought you to where you are now?
When I mentioned before that it was through research, I was actually working on a bill at the Capitol and try to come up with economic numbers for Latinos was like, no, there's nothing. There's really nothing. There were two folks at that point who were doing research. One was in Irvine, and it was more on the labor focus. The other one was out of Stanford, who was doing it more on entrepreneurship, which is great. But really understanding the makeup or understanding the economic power that us as Latinos have, us as a community have, is something that I knew needed to be fixed. And I knew that the Chambers of Commerce had a huge opportunity to really step into that spot and really be the champion of it. I don't know what you know about the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I don't know what you know about the Chambers of Commerce, for that matter. But I'll probably say 75% of my job has been on dealing with the negative history of our organizations, the lack of presence there's been on our communities. Even my dad's. Another thing. I was adopted by a gay couple that brought me to Sacramento, gave me the opportunity to choose, and they said, we don't care who you are, we don't care who you're becoming, you choose, want to provide you a cushion so you can jump as high as you can, and I still jump in. But going back to my other point, I left the Capitol, I took a pay cut, and I took a demotion. And I knew I needed to be part of the Sacramento community, but I knew that I needed to do it on my own terms. Not on what everybody else was expecting me to do it, but do it on my own terms, because I wanted to be as effective as I could in the way in which I needed to not only use my time, but also be engaged. And it was out of a need that brought me, it was out of a need that I identified and a crack that I identified in our ecosystem that brought me to the Chambers of Commerce. And it was a passion for community that really pushed me to continue to do the work that I do. 2 years after I started my job in this organization, back in 2013, I actually was tapped and recruited to go work for the state organization, that is also based out of Sacramento, multi-million-dollar organization, also dysfunctional in many different regards. After about a year, this executive decided to leave. The majority of the executive team left as well. And there was poor little Juan, who at that point was 24, became the most senior individual in that organization. I cried, I was scared. I never understood what it meant for my signature to be in somebody's payroll until that particular moment. Where there will be times that I had to defer my pay, so they would, where I will have to go head to head with a few corporates, a few people in my board, and I will be determined to not back down, because at that point I also understood that if my time was not invested and was not tangible, I was not doing my job. And so, in the middle of the pandemic, I was actually serving as the board of directors for this organization. That the board decided to ask me if I would come back and help them to do a lot of the COVID relief work. And the first answer that I had was, no, you cannot afford this. I am not going back to take another pay cut and another demotion. I'm not. And then they said, well, let's wait it out and see what we can do. 2 months later, they said, we actually do need you and we can pay you. It's gonna take you a little bit for us to get you to where you wanna be, but just come back and work for us and then we'll make it work. And I said, okay, pay is out of the way. Now let's really talk about what really needs to be done in this organization. Because I am not investing my time and I'm not putting my own being. A lot of the work that I do may be suits and a lot of fancy dinners and office work. But it's a lot. It's a lot of long hours. It's a lot of innovation. It's a lot of testing. It's a lot of managing not only priorities, also egos, that at times, somebody who's young, who's, had a rough childhood, can be a lot. But it was a community that I knew and I had in mind. I also grew up during the 2008 recession. Latinos were the hardest hit back then and were the last to actually, and I don't think that we ever recovered from that, economically speaking. I knew that there was going to be a recession, and I knew that there was going to be a huge, is it mine?
I'm sorry.
It's okay, it sounds like mine. And normally this is the time that I take a nap. But I also knew that it was going to be there was going to be a point in our history where not only there was going to be a lot of opportunities that could come to our communities, but there was going to be a huge transition in the way we would do things. And again, I lived through the 2008 pandemic. I lived through the 9/11 issues. And I said, I'm going to come back. Thank you for the pay. I appreciate that you appreciate my value as an employee. But these are the things that we need to do as an organization. If you're not willing to do them, I'm out. I already have a job. I can probably go look something else. I'm not going to do it. And they said, we actually think we're ready for that. And we want you to help us lead it. And so now we have been able to advocate and make sure that our communities get more than $10 million straight to the neighborhoods, that we are able to secure funds to small businesses, that we're able to really shape an organization that is rooted in community rather than whoever's paying our bills, and that we get to do real work in our communities. Sacramento is amazing. Sacramento is growing in many different regards, and not only the Latino community, but everybody should be part of that growth.
Thank you, Juan. My question to you is, you explained very well what is a day at work for you like, and also the work that the Chamber does in Sacramento for the Hispanic community. But also you're telling us of how you guys are looking to invest in our communities, and also like how do people like us, like students or like our families, have access to that type of resource? Because many of us here, we're here for a reason. And I was talking to Jocelyn in our previous meeting this past a few days. I'm like, something I would want to ask Juan when I meet him is like, let's say I don't have a creative idea of what type of business I would want to be opening, but I know I hope to become an independent business owner in the future, because like you said, the Hispanic community was one of the hardest hit by the recession, and our parents are still recovering for that. But coming back to my point is, I'm a student. I don't know what type of work I want to do, but I know that we have the Hispanic Chamber who's looking to invest in the community. How can we become a part of that type of investment? How can we start, and what would you suggest for us to start to begin with?
Reach out. There's, again, land of opportunity in many different regards, comes with a lot of different benefits. Anything you can dream of, you can probably make it happen. And most likely will take an individual, an organization, or an event to actually be in front of folks who can make that dream a reality. One of the biggest things that I always encourage folks to really think about when it comes to that self or individual growth period, especially during college, is to build community. If you do not know who this lady is, that would be an issue to me. If this gentleman over here is not involved with them, or not at least say hi when you guys see each other in that in that courtyard, that would be an issue. Getting involved in many different regards, it may sound really, really bad. It may be like, oh, it's for charity. And I'm like, it's not only that, it's really providing you the opportunity to be exposed in ways that you probably never thought about. Like, I learned how to do data management and how to do a website because I volunteer for my community development organization down in San Diego. I know how to manage an event because I managed the Raza graduation in my campus. I learned how to manage bylaws and all the legal terminology that now I get to use in my job because I run nonprofit organizations and clubs in college. And it was because of that involvement that I got to meet folks who really not only opened their hearts, their homes, a lot of times their own wallet, for me to really continue to do the work that I do. And so whether that is a business, whether that is wanting to, explore an opportunity in a field that you probably never even thought about, or that you just need a little bit more of guidance or a little bit more of exposure to, reach out. There's always opportunity, and if somebody tells you no, there's gonna be somebody else who will. Again, I applied to a lot of jobs in this town, in this region. If I tell you that I have over 200 applications in a folder that I still keep count on my desktop, I'm not lying to you. I got a lot of no's. And it's funny because there are times now that they actually invite me to go speak to their employees. And I'm like, and it is what it is, but it's always that sense of making sure that you don't hide behind a device, or you don't get stuck in your head saying, I cannot do this, or maybe this is not for me. If I would have had that mentality back in the days, this little rancherito, little ranch boy, would not be where I am right now, to be honest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, if a student wants to start their business today, how can they reach out to you? And how much can your program fund a student to start their business?
Sure. Actually, yesterday we had our first informational session for our Emprende program. It's actually all in Spanish. And this is another thing that we don't understand. A lot of the programs that are being offered not only in the university and a lot of the other entities within the ecosystem, meaning the region of Sacramento, for the most part, they will be free. She's a clear example of a lot of that work. There's a lot of folks who dedicate a lot of time and energy and resources to at least get you somewhere. The SBA, the SBDC networks, us, we have 2 different programs, one in Spanish and one in English. The one in Spanish, we are partner with the Franklin Pivot, the Small Business Improvement District in Sacramento. We do it fully in Spanish. It's hybrid. You don't have to pay anything. You don't. The other program that we have is Level Up Sacramento. We have it in partnership with the Carson Center of Sacramento State. Folks get credits for that course, and that one's in English, but they also get access to then a huge array of other resources that they didn't have the opportunity to do or have access to before. But Sacramento has been doing a really good job, and I think the work that Monique and a lot of the colleges and universities and a bunch of other institutes and organizations in this region have done is to really not think about the work that they do in a silo and be so competitive for funding, but rather complementary and try to ensure that we're there to support the businesses, the people. Again, Sacramento is growing in tremendous ways. That there's so much work, there's so many opportunities. And there's no reason why somebody could get in their hand and say, I cannot do this. There's no reason why somebody could say, oh, I'm alone on all of this. It will take a little bit of work. It will take a little bit of work. But it's also part of the process of becoming a small business owner, on becoming, the next leader and a member of a region, which to my belief is amazing. I love Sacramento.
Thank you, Juan. So you work very closely with business owners in the Hispanic community. What are some things that they tell you, or if they have come forward to you to tell you about some of their struggles? Like, what is it like that typically holds us back as a community from wanting to continue a business, or what are some of the roadblocks that people typically have come across?
That's a good one. I'm probably not going to be in a popular answer.
Yeah.
But there's a cultural element of our community that I don't quite understand. It's a default of a poor me mentality, that the world is against us and that there is everything. We find an excuse for almost everything, instead of actually figure out ways to make something work. And I'll give you an example. Again, I get to go and talk to a few folks. I was in the community once at a similar panel, but just all small businesses. It was a taco truck who opened up and stood up and asked a question similar to what you just asked, to say, what is it that we need to do to ensure that our communities thrive, our small business thrive. And we got to actually have an open conversation. I asked what type of business you have, and he said it's a taco truck. How long have you been working on it? He said about 2 years. And I was like, what's your running cash flow? He said, that's my biggest struggle. I cannot find access to capital. I cannot find a loan. Right now, I'm in debt. I'm already putting loans against my house. And it's really difficult for us to keep up with the cost of running the business, and things were fairly opening up, so there was not a lot of festivals or in-person type of events. And I told him, there's a point in which we need to start making economic conversations. And he said, what do you mean? Historically, statistically, food industry businesses are going to have a really hard time accessing loans. It's a reality. Until when you're going to make an economic business decision, and instead of slapping your head left and right, you're going to say, maybe this was not for me. I can probably go and learn how to, within still a business, change light bulbs, or learn how to do welding. The amount of money that is being funneled through this region is incredible. The amount of money that is staying in our region is incredibly low. For instance, Siemens. How many of you guys know what Siemens is? Cool. This guy, you should also know what Siemens is. Siemens have a huge portfolio of they're the ones who build all the trains. They have a huge warehouse and facility over in South Sacramento. They always welcome students, so if you guys want to take them up for tours, we can definitely establish that relationship so you guys can, expose them to them as well. There's billions of dollars available, and they cannot find small businesses that are of color that can fulfill those contracts. And they have to go to other places, sometimes other countries, to contract those services. And to me, I told the gentleman, I'm like, I'm sorry, there's a point in which we have to have a conversation. And I'm not going to get into my beliefs on a few of the sciences, but I'm like, I became, we're releasing a report this Friday. The amount of, the numbers that I see in the field of, industries where Latinos and people of color are underrepresented, to me is alarming, because guess what? Those are the industries of the future. And we have that workforce of tomorrow in Sacramento as a region that not only goes to Sacramento, not only goes to, Rockland, looks like a lot of you. What are we doing to ensure that we're not only, growing with our region, but making sure that it doesn't turn into another case of San Francisco or LA, in which we had to, sorry, and a few probably people are not going to appreciate this, export talent to our region, where we have an amazing system of not only NGOs, but community colleges and universities, where this talent can come out of. Why are we not having that type of conversation and doing it in a really tangible way?
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take the last question from Jocelyn and ask the audience if you guys have any questions.
Sure. They better be good questions.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, you're undocumented.
Yes.
And I'm also undocumented.
Yay!
And we have something in common. And I was wondering, like, as an undocumented student, there's not a lot of resources and many opportunities. In order to have a job and work a 9-to-5 job, in order to be able to start your own business, you have to first, like, have the DACA, or if people weren't, a lot of, like myself, weren't able to get DACA on time, or have to have papers. How did you do it? And what would you give some examples to undocumented students that are in the same position, in a really, really difficult struggle?
One is accepting it, and again, not seeing it as, not going to default. Even a little bit of the statement that you mentioned, I was like, oh, don't go there. Especially framing that question. To me, who I am became my superpower. I was undocumented. That means that I knew how to hustle. If somebody would tell me no, I'll find a way to say yes. If somebody would tell me, I'm like, and to this point, my husband thinks it's a little bit weird. I cannot get afraid by anything. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. And it was because of that really pushed me to really not only take a look inside and figure out, this is who I am, this is the way in which I want to live. Again, the creative and the questioning of the person who really wanted to figure out what the heck is going on, but also then figure it out, what is there in my ecosystem that will be there for me? And if there isn't anything for me, how can I create it? Because there's always going to be folks who are going to be able to help. Because there are always going to be those opportunities that are going to present to yourself. But one, you need to not only ask for them and make sure that you do due diligence and making sure that you take care and take advantage of those opportunities, but that you bring others with you. So, and this is another benefit. Again, land of opportunity, we also live in California. Whether you like California or not, whether you come from Texas or you want to live in Texas, or you hear that at home or you hear that anywhere, we live in California. Take advantage of that. I mentioned before, there's a lot of different programs, there's a lot of different resources within our ecosystem that are for you there, and you don't have to pay for them. In California, you just need an I-10 to start a new business. And the I-10 was, and the business can allow you to really grow, economically speaking, and do a lot of great work. I have a lot of friends who are still undocumented. I'm not undocumented anymore. I actually became a citizen about 2 years ago. It was really, I never understood that, by the way. I remember I posted a photo and it reached like 45,000
Oh, wow.
folks. And I was like, wow, that was one thing. But when it hit me, I remember I was at the gym and I never experienced this until, and I'm gonna go back to your question a little bit. The sense of being seen, feeling seen, not that you matter, not that you belong, but that there were other people who you were part of something greater. The ability to vote, in my regards, is something that especially a lot of younger generation doesn't really take advantage of. Love complaining, especially on social media. Love complaining. But being civically engaged is something that I've always done, and it took a lot of work to get to now becoming a citizen. But going back to a point, to your question, is understanding that the opportunities are there if I've done the job and making sure that I'm confident on my skill sets. I know who I am. I've done all the work. I have a good, solid nucleus and direction of life. The opportunities are gonna pop. And again, my undocumented status made me a rock star in many different regards to a lot of folks. I'm like, how can you do so much? How is it that you're doing this? How are you doing that? I'm like, because I have to hustle. You want me to do? Cry in the corner and not do anything? Like really fulfill the expectations a lot of folks want me to do? Like to not be a positive and good member of my community that can open the doors for other folks? I'm like, I don't quite understand that. And again, going back to the younger generation, it's one of the things that not only concerns me the most, but I'm like, being in the phone or being, so transactional in many different regards can get you somewhere. But unless you bring in other people with you and you're truly building community in where you're not allowing politicians or corporate America or what's in the phone determine your future, but rather together, really forming and shaping what our community will be, not only for you, but for the future generation, your kids. Once you have to take care of a kid, for those of you who are moms, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard. And doing it at a really early age and having that being at the core of what you do, not only allows me to do the things that I do, but I'm able to transform the life of folks who probably are never gonna figure out who I was or who I am. And to me, that's just an amazing opportunity.
Thank you. So now we're gonna go ahead and take questions from the audience. If you guys wanna ask something in regards to what he mentioned, have a follow-up question, and some of the questions that either I or Jocelyn asked. Anyone? Yes.
Go ahead.
First, thank you for being as gracious as you were with my little hiccup.
All right.
And in regards to my question, do you typically work with individuals who want to start businesses in small communities? And if so, like rural towns, for example, what do you see as the fastest growing industries that have the most success?
Latinas. I'll tell you that. Latinas, they hustle. In Sacramento, the food industry is definitely high. Small businesses, especially those in that rural communities, it's growth, because that's what. And you also have to understand the history of Sacramento to understand the reason why. But I would say ag tech, biotech, and a lot of the work that lady over there and the Greater Economic Council has been doing and making sure that we really change the region as a whole, not only to not be a cow town anymore or a government town anymore. You see big offices popping left and right. The ag industry, ag tech industry is massive, and there's not a lot of people of color in those industries, by the way. So jump on that, and they pay well. But every city and every county does. and prioritize a little bit different, but I think that there's a huge momentum and try to unify a lot of those strategies and making sure that we really are transforming our economy into one that is not so dependent on government, and that is also attracting and providing good opportunities to folks outside of the area, but also for folks who are in the area. That's why there's a lot of work that is being done at a community college level, at the traditional college, Sac State, UC Davis. Meet Square is coming up, the Mobility Center is coming up. So there's a lot of those different opportunities that are looking for folks like you and I. There are times in which we get phone calls and say, hey, do you know anybody who can actually be part of this program? And I'm like, yep, we know this folks, so we help support them. Follow our social media, follow Monique's and the Grow Factory over there, the type of work they do, because there's a lot of great work that is being done. And again, how can we all change that? It's websites. It really does, because it's really, Sacramento is going in a way that I think a lot of the folks that I deal with are not expecting, but that look like people like you guys.
Thank you, Juan.
Is there any other questions you guys would like to ask?
Go ahead, Monique.
Monique?
Thank you for coming today, Juan, and for sharing a lot about your history and what brought you here today. I'm glad we're recording this.
Oh, you're recording?
I'm curious about what you see for your future.
Oh, I think he's gonna have to stop recording right now. I live my life in a cycle of 10s. Every 10 years I have to do something different. I've been doing this work for 10 years now. September marks that, June marked my 10 years. I wanted to do something bigger. I'm not gonna go work for the bigger organizations in this town, but I know that I have taken the time to really learn and fall in love with Sacramento, not only as a region, but as an ecosystem. And so right now I'm in the process of figuring out what that is going to look like. One of the biggest issues that I had faced through my career here, going back to Sacramento, is that I'm always a Latino chamber guy, and I do not like that. The type of work that I do touches not only my community, but impacts the greater ecosystem in which I'm part of. So trying to figure that out, I was approached by a few of our friends to go apply for other jobs here and there. I'm also been in this role for 2 years, so people are like, so are you gonna take over? And I said, no, I'm not that crazy, nor I need it for my ego or for the money, because for people who run nonprofit organizations, I still need to raise my own funds. I still need to be responsible for my team's livelihood. But I know that I want to do something bigger. What that big may be, I'm not quite sure. I'm part of the Sacramento Managers Academy. We started our coursework last week, and there was a firefighter who came in and spoke. The chief came and spoke. When people asked me back in the days why I wanted to be where I grew up, I said a fighter. But I said a fighter because a really cute boy next to me said I want to be a fighter. So I wanted to be a fighter. So I went home and I said to my husband, babe, I think I want to be a fighter. And he said, of course you are. But no, I just want to be doing something big, and I want to do something that speaks to my heart in my own terms. I mentioned before, Sacramento provides a lot of different opportunities for you to get involved. I'll mention another plug. Nonprofit organizations in this region are severely underfunded. Every festival that you probably have gone to and post photos or that was organized by a nonprofit organization, I can guarantee you that not only would appreciate for you to share that photo, and tag them, but also for you to come over and help them with setup or cleanup. That's when you get to learn and see a lot of folks who are really embedded and committed to the work that they do. Every Saturday I figured out what festival is going on in town, and I'm always sending emails, hey, I can help you with setup in the morning. He said, what? I'm like, yeah, I can go at 5:30 in the morning to like 10. I'm like, just tell me what you want. I don't have to go in my suit. You don't have to say anything. The chamber is not involved on this. I just want to go help. And that's my cardio every Saturday.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have a question for Juan? Yes?
So I'm a student, I'm here today, and, or say that I'm a student that has a friend that's interested in business, similar to one of the questions I was asked. I'm not really sure where to start, but I know I want to. I have a little bit of fire in me, so what do I do tomorrow? Where do I go tomorrow? What websites do I check out next week? Like, how do I get started?
Make sure you nominate that one. There's a lot of different opportunities here on campus. Take advantage of them. Those should be your first go-to, whether that is Entrepreneurship Center or Entrepreneur Career Center that you may have. I'm not familiar with how you guys run your things. In the community, Chambers of Commerce are great. Chambers of Commerce, again, another folks think that working for a Chamber of Commerce is a glamorous, high-paying job. It's really not. You're a nonprofit. We still need to raise funds. We still need to do a lot of work, sometimes with really limited resources. Volunteer. And if you are serious about opening that business or your friend, the SBA, again, the Grow Factory, the chambers will be a really good resource. And don't fall for the quick, easy, I'm gonna do everything for you, because for the most part, one, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. Two, that's when it goes into a lot of issues that if you, not saying that is in general, but a lot of those bad actors can take advantage of folks. But also it's part of becoming an entrepreneur and being a small business. You have to learn. You have to understand your business left and right. Your friend is to understand what it takes, what it means to be a small business owner. And so sometimes a quick way out is not the best way possible. Thank you.
And then would you be able to stand up so students can know who you are and what you do? Because your name has been brought up so many times.
I will, and then I know we have classes too. But hi everybody, I'm Monique Brown. I'm entrepreneur in residence here at Sierra College. So through there she is, Marwa. You can certainly find me, or I think we have some information on the website. But I'm also the co-founder and managing director of the Growth Factory. It's a startup accelerator and venture fund that invests in entrepreneurs that want to build their businesses here in our communities. But we have a lot of other programs, to Juan's point, and we're very involved in the ecosystem. So if we can't directly help you, we will try and get you to somebody who can. We work with a lot of students both here at Sierra College, but we have a place called Wisville Venture Lab on Virgin Street, free drop-in co-working, so you can just come hang out, work there with other students. A lot of times your team is there and available for questions. And so just absolutely feel free to reach out to me. Monique at growthfactory.us is my email. Just email me. Always happy to. I'm not always fast on email. Sometimes I'm a little hairy, but just keep trying. If I haven't answered you the first time, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just like fine. But and then the last thing I'll say to the question about a website, NorCalEntrepreneurHub.com is another resource that really aggregates a lot of events, programs, organizations around the greater Sacramento region. And it's a great place. Sierra College is a funder of that effort, and so it's a great place to start just seeing what's out there. And to Juan's point, there's a lot of people out there that want to support and elevate and cheerlead and connect. And so, just raise your hand. Just go have that conversation, because we're excited about we want to. So that's why we're here.
Thank you, Monique.
Lastly, if anyone has any more questions, please raise your hand now. Okay, so we'll move on to the last comment from Juan and close the panel, because I'm aware some of us have class at 2. So anything that you want to leave us with?
I'll keep it short. Build community. Don't forget about that. Build community. At times, it can be really daunting to, and every aspect. I have a rule. You're not really my friend unless 60% of your personal budget it's not spent in a small business. Period. It's a matter of making sure that we're supporting each other. It's making sure that we are attending to each other, listening to each other, and really ensuring that we don't forget who we are as a community. It's really easy. It's really easy to get lost in the phone. It's really easy to give community a second place over convenience, because it's really easy just to tap and something's gonna show up at my door. But there's a lot of small business owners. There's a lot of folks who not only need your support, but also are making great contributions to our economy. And if you don't know, who they are, what type of community are we building, it's always something I'm concerned. I go to malls, I go to stores, and I see people on the phones. I go to, or I see more traffic now be done by a few of the delivery systems other than, traffic in our stores. And to me, that is not only a concern. If you know the political and economic infrastructure of things, one of those folks is getting a huge tax break that has a direct impact to your livelihood. A lot of the other ones are still struggling. So build community, help each other out, and reach out. Reach out.
Thank you so much, Juan.